Welcome to Mommy Heal Thyself. We feature guests who provide you with the tools, resources, and strategies you need to say no to a life of pain and suffering from all forms of preventable disease, toxic drugs, and unnecessary surgeries. We hope to inspire you to boldly reclaim your ability to heal and to serve the ones you love.
Hey, everyone. I am super excited to tell you today of our wonderful guest. So Boris Berjan, first and foremost, what is going on in the background with you? Where are you located? I know you techie guys, you're always in the middle of something. So where are you and what are you doing right now?
Great question. I'm back in Canada, so I spent half the year in Canada, and when it gets cold, I go down to the States. I'm currently at my mother-in-law's house because we just had our firstborn, and that's why you see a lot of the boxes in the background.
Awesome, and that is why I'm just so honored to be able to do this interview with you, because in the midst of all of this stuff that's happening in your family, you have chosen to say yes to this interview. So I thank you so very much for doing this with us.
My pleasure, and it was an honor to be invited. So I'm looking forward to it.
Well, you guys, Boris is the co-founder and CEO of Theia Health. He's a person who prides himself on digesting and understanding medical research to come to conclusions. And he is so humble. I asked him to send me a little bio, and he sent me this one-liner. So I had to go do my homework and dig up stuff from all over the internet, because he's all over the place doing phenomenal things. He has a mission to change global healthcare through innovation, personalization, and engineering, and therefore shift the paradigm from reactionary to preventative. So you know that as soon as I heard that, I was like, oh yeah, gotta have him on our show. His focus is on building products that bridge the gap to understanding how the body works and how to optimize it. And actually, I'm wearing one of his devices right now. I'm going to show it to you guys. So this is one of the devices that he has that he's going to probably tell us a little bit more about. And it is phenomenal, because the number of diabetics in this country and globally is truly heartbreaking. And the downstream consequences of being diabetic is life-changing. And the thought that all of this was solvable through diet and nutrition made it a problem that he is focused on solving. This is where great real-time sensors like the one that I showed you, specifically continuous glucose monitors, were a great tool to tackle this problem. With them, we are able to semi-immediately measure the impact of diet and lifestyle changes so that we can focus on the highest impact changes that we feel that we can make sustainably. I'm always talking to you guys about implementing things that are part of a lifestyle, not a fad, not a diet, not a today, not tomorrow kind of thing. So he and his company are now off to the races to refine the development of this technology and to help people to discover small sustainable changes that can have profound impact on their health and lives. So Boris, tell us, what is the problem that you help our women to solve?
Thank you for the wonderful intro, first and foremost. But second, really, it kind of boils down to women can now understand how diet and other lifestyle decisions are impacting their hormones. I know you said semi-real time, it just depends how you use it, but almost immediately, right? And that wasn't available to us even 3 years ago. And now it's the first time in our lifetime where we can get actionable data and insights on our bodies, almost like you said, immediately when we do something. And so the problem has always been, if I do this for 3 months or I diet this way for 6 months, you're going to get some results. Mm-hmm. The issue is you're fighting against other things that want to give you immediate gratification: social media, junk food, drugs, Ozempic, etc. I'm not knocking any of those things. I'm just saying that those are things that are immediate gratifications, and then you're trying to do something long-term, right? And it's a disconnect in the brain, because like, this already feels good, so let's do that. But now we've kind of flipped the script and said, you did this thing that's supposedly good for you, but now we can prove whether it was or wasn't a positive impact. So currently what we're using is, as you mentioned, the little continuous glucose monitors that you're wearing.
Mhm.
That's kind of our first introductory offer. There's going to be lots of different monitors and things that we can implement that are going to give real-time data back to you as a person or individual. And our focus is really also primarily working with the providing care team or the health coaching team around that individual. So if you have, amazing coaches, dietitians, doctors, such as Dr. Gamble, that are working with you, then they'll be able to see that data. We're not trying to cut out the providers that are already working with these patients for decades, right? We're trying to incorporate a system that makes that relationship, that unity, and just much more powerful.
Awesome. So what are the typical symptoms that women experience that would lead them to want to utilize this type of device?
Great question. I would say there's two distinct categories. Number one is menstrual cycles. So obviously, women who are going through a menstrual cycle, we've seen time and time again, their metabolism, their hormones immediately change when that's coming up, before, after, and during, and then it's, the same. So kind of the same playbook that works for maybe 2.5 to 3 weeks could completely fall off the bandwagon that week and a half. And so that's going to be different for everybody, depending on where you're located, what you've been eating, et cetera. Right? So there's no real way to predict it unless you have that data.
Mhm.
That's where this is super useful, because you can action things right away and make those changes in almost real time, like you said. And then you're not really guessing, or you didn't lose 2 days, and then you're not, you didn't lose a week maybe because you were on top of it and you were supporting that time period and that month. The second really powerful way is pre, during, and post menopause.
Mm.
We know women's bodies and hormones change, sometimes weekly, monthly, daily, etc. And it's really nice to see, okay, what's going on, what I just put in my body, did it react positively during those times? Again, it's always coming back to, can we have objective data on our body that's useful, that we can action immediately? And if we can, we're closing the loop on how long it takes you to get something that works for you, right? So what might have been years of exploration, if we can get that down to 1 second, great. Maybe in the middle somewhere, but those are the two scenarios where we see, okay, this is something I can use in these specific time periods of my life. Obviously you can use it day to day too, but I'm just calling out those specific timelines where it's been very, very useful.
That is what excited me so much about this. I have been dying to be able to access this technology for my students, because it is a total game changer. It takes all the guesswork out of dietary planning. And the other thing that I've been noticing is that it now gives me more power behind my suggestions when I talk to my students about the impact of things like sleep or lack of sleep, stress. And when we talk about hormones, not just the sex hormones, but also the stress hormones. So this is a total game changer. Having the ability to see those numbers in real time is just awesome. Let me tell you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. So now, what are some of the common mistakes that women make when they're trying to deal with these hormonal fluctuations and blood glucose and all that kind of good stuff?
I would honestly say trying too many things, too many diets, too many supplements without proper data first.
Yeah.
So marketing sells, right? And pretty much all info now is tied to some kind of brand. Like they'll either sponsor an influencer or an article or a website or a podcast, whatever they can. And I'm not saying they're bad products. Lots of them are extremely good and high quality, etc. It's just that if you don't have a baseline to work from, I've seen this in the past a lot, and I've done this also, is you buy these supplements because you have good brand affinity and there's good data that shows they work, but you could be over subscribing to certain nutrients that now is going to cause an issue and then leaving other ones undervalued. And the same thing with diets, right? It's just like this person's diet might have worked for them really well, but it could backfire on you. Like I know somebody who did keto and they were convinced that was the best diet for them, which is like half the battle. You want to believe in what you're doing.
Yeah.
And it was like terrible reactions. They were actually allergic to red meat when they did some testing, right? So getting a baseline, I think, understanding, which is very not common practice, is the number one issue that I see is people are trying to add things into their life that are supposed to be good, but could potentially actually cause a lot of problems, especially over longer periods of time. If you're getting like 700% of one nutrient every single day, and then zero on some other ones, it's not going to balance really well.
Yeah, that is something that I've always stressed. Lab test, not best guess. And what is even more critical that I am really enjoying with the continuous glucose meter is that it's real time. Because even when I was doing lab tests with my students, realistically, we only do lab tests in a beautiful world every 3 months. But with the continuous glucose meter, you see every second of every day, and you get to identify the significant changes that occur and the triggers that you can't get that data from monthly or even daily blood tests. Even when I had my students checking their blood glucose, say every morning, every night, we still weren't getting all of the data. And these really significant clues have totally changed how I'm approaching helping them out. So it's phenomenal. Now, what is the number one tip that you would give our women?
You kind of lined it up. It's getting that data on your body. And I'm not saying continuous if that's, I'm not just trying to say just do the continuous stuff, but again, if you can get some baseline blood work, like you're saying, that's even just one, could dictate the next 3 months of what you can do. GI maps, I've done a lot of these things, and it's every time you get a little bit of insight into your body. They're not perfect by any means of the imagination, but you have basically something to work off of that's objectively there that you don't have to speculate on. And it's just too important not to do.
And I love the fact that one of the things that really motivated you was the importance of personalization. And the more data that you're able to gather, the more you're able to personalize your lifestyle choices, because you have an understanding of the reasons why you're doing that and the uniqueness of your particular person. So what are some of the books or programs or concepts that have been most inspirational or impactful during your experience?
I actually want to reference, there's a TED Talk. It's a business talk, but I'm going to tie it back to this conversation. It's called Start With Why. I'm not sure if you've heard it.
Yeah.
It's by Simon Sinek
or something. Yeah,
exactly. And so the reason I reference that is because there's all these, I mean, like I've done an NLP certification, walked on fire with Tony Robbins. Like, all of that stuff is great. And if you have the means and willingness to do it. It's absolutely amazing. But just that talk, basically all he did was say you should always start with why, because everyone knows everyone tries to fill their plate with what diet, what supplement, what activity should I do at what time, but okay, great, you can do all of those things and spend thousands of dollars a month. But if you know why you're doing it, you're starting again, it's not necessarily blood work data, but it's a North Star that you can work backwards off of, right? It's like if I'm trying to build a building, okay, why are we building this building in this area? Okay, well, it has a good neighborhood. You have the infrastructure of what to do after you have the why, and then you're not going to go and be influenced as much. You still will be by marketing, or somebody tells you about a supplement. If it's not in your game plan and it's not part of your why, it's not going to be necessary, right? So that's really, I encourage always people to look at that. I'm like, even if you're not a business owner, I use that a lot in my life. Well, I want to do all these things. Okay, why do I want to do them? Okay, great. Now my motivation is more intrinsic, still has to be both, but it's less always on and externally motivated.
Very, very true. Very, very true. Everything in life, you should really begin with why. Asking yourself that question, why? Why am I doing this? Why is it even important? So,
Yeah.
what do you have one valuable free resource that our women can use, and how could they get it?
So I actually have a free, super actionable, no one's gonna think I'm gonna say this. There's a website. I don't, correct me if I'm wrong. I know some people will. I think it's spring.com.
Mhm.
And essentially what it shows you is all the places you can get fresh spring water for free where you are, or anywhere in the United States. So I used to do some coaching for people with the Crohn's disease. And one of the activities I gave them was go get fresh spring water and make it like a hike on a Sunday. And now it's kind of a fun activity that's healthy for you. And the reason I bring that up is because we talked a lot about hormones.
Mhm.
There's a lot of hormone disruptors in tap waters now. Like the pipes are old. There's people are dumping drugs into the water sewage systems that's not getting filtered.
Mhm.
The number one thing you ingest is water, right? Or liquids, let's say, from that water. You wash your food with the water. So
Yeah.
it's like the number one source free you can get for free, and also do like a hike out of it. And I think super underutilized. Almost nobody knows about this. Easy win.
Well, I definitely did not know about this, so I am so excited. And you guys, don't worry about that. I'm going to get the link from Boris, and I'm going to put it into the show notes. So you will have access to that link to find out that valuable resource of how to find free spring water near you. So now we're coming to an end, but before we do that, I would like to know, what is one question that I should have asked that would help our women to create lives that are filled with prosperity, peace, power, passion, and everything that is wonderful and juicy in life?
It's a good one. I think if I had to ask one question, it would probably be, how do you set up life where you execute daily and what you want? Because it's easy to get motivated here or there, but I think everybody understands it's daily execution of anything over a long period of time yields the best and biggest results, right?
Mhm.
And my answer would have been, I like to ask one question when I'm stuck or trying to figure something out, and it's, what would 99-year-old Boris say about what you're about to do or what you're doing? And it was one of my good friends gave me this kind of mental concept, because I was about to do something and I wasn't sure. And then he's like, what would 99-year-old Boris say? And I was like, well, of course, do it. Like it's like a blimp on the map and you can sleep later. And I was like, of course, that makes sense now, because in the moment emotion came up, I was feeling a little bit tired or whatever the case was. And so now when I'm, in that kind of mental headspace where I'm unsure of something, I always ask, what would 99-year-old Boris do here? And the answer, it just becomes so obvious that you just do the thing that you're supposed to do, that you're kind of trying to pawn off.
Mhm.
And if you make yourself look dumb or it doesn't work, who cares? It was 1 second in the next X amount of years of your life. And in 10 years, you'll probably even forget that you did it, right?
Mhm.
So I really like that frame of thinking, and it's helped me tremendously. And if it's useful for anybody else, feel free to use it.
Oh, one more thing, because I want to make
Yeah.
this little distinction. We were talking about the continuous glucose meters, and you have different ones that are out there,
Yep.
but I want to speak specifically to the Theia app. How is it different? What does it do? What does it add in
Yep.
terms of the journey?
Yeah, absolutely. So with Theia, we're very provider first driven, which means when you sign up with us, your data goes back to your provider or your health coach or your wellness expert, whoever you're working with. And so I always like to say 99.99% of patient care or coaching is outside of the office or outside of group coaching calls, right? You're going back to your environment where things are there, where you did things that didn't make you as healthy as you wanted to be. Now and then you don't talk to that provider until you see them again. So we're bridging that gap where now there's an always on stream of your health data with your provider. But aside from that, the glucose monitors themselves were invented for dosing insulin for diabetic patients. So you see a number and then your doctor tells you when you hit that number, you take this much insulin. If you're not type 1 diabetic dosing insulin, glucose it's basically a correlation to how your metabolism is doing. But you having a raw number means nothing to you. So what we did was we implemented scoring systems and algorithms that make things extremely easy. So how did you score on this food? How did you score on this day? It's kind of like your check engine lights for everything that you're doing, and then reporting showing you moving averages of your body's health. And that's much more actionable and insightful for somebody that isn't dosing insulin, because otherwise they would have to understand chemistry and biology at a level that they don't want to learn. So we made that part easy for both provider and end user.
And that's one of the things I really love about the platform, that it is so user-friendly. And you can easily see, oh, that food, oh man, it didn't do well with my body. And it's not just about looking at the initial spike or the drop in the blood glucose numbers, but contextualizing it and getting an idea of, okay, how long did it take for my body to restabilize the glucose after I ate this? Or how long did it take to restabilize after I engaged in this activity, or I had this stressful event in my life? So it really gives a more rounded picture so that you can go back to your why and create the rationale behind the decisions that you do with regards to your lifestyle changes. Because, when you decide to change different things in your life, if you don't have a strong why, you probably not are going to keep it for too long. When it becomes more challenging and more disruptive, you're like, it doesn't really make a difference. But when you're really clear on the why, then you're like, oh no, I understand why I'm doing this, and now it's okay, I'm good. So in any case, thank you so very much for joining us today, Boris. And we look forward to helping our women to get access to that wonderful free resource, and also giving them access to the Theia platform so that they can talk about it with their healthcare provider. Ladies, I look forward to seeing you again for our next episode. And remember to live life to its fullest. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in for this episode of Mommy Heal Thyself. If you like what we're doing here, please share, subscribe, like us, and leave a comment. Your feedback is very